The MMA India Show.
Firstly, let me welcome Andrea Lee, the UFC flyweight contender and former LFA women's flyweight champ. Thank you so much for taking the time for us. Gotta ask you, it's been nearly a month since your UFC debut. What have you been up to since then?
Well, I've been, sorry, I lost my phone. Just training, but, taking it easy too at the same time and spending time with all of my family. And right now I'm actually here in Mississippi. Our teammates are fighting for one of the promotions here, and we're here helping them out.
Okay, and the interesting part is when you're in a camp, the way you train is different, but when you're outside a camp, the way you train is different again. So how do you mix those things up when you're outside of a training camp?
Well, whenever I'm outside of a training camp, we work most of being technical and still doing lots and lots of cardio, but focusing on the technical aspects of everything, not grinding as much. And then, of course, when you're in fight camp, everything's pick up the pace and everything's a lot more grinding and, a lot tougher, so.
Okay, and you've been waiting, you've been expecting to make your debut in the UFC for months before you, finally made your debut. So how was the fight week for you? How was it very different from your other fights, say, for Invicta or LFA?
Well, there was a lot more media, obligations and, a lot more photo shoots that came. You had the video, and then you had the other photo shoot, and it was a bit stressful, just trying to get acquainted with everybody and all the new faces. But it was still, it wasn't as different as LFA and Invicta. It wasn't too different. It was just, a little bit, knowing you're in the UFC can be a little overwhelming.
Right. So when did it kind of dawn on you during the fight week that you were going to make your UFC debut? Was it during the media day? Was it during the entire the lead up to the fight night? When did it kind of hit you that you're going to make your UFC debut?
Probably when I finally got on the plane, and started flying to Chile. That's normally when it hits me. That's when everything becomes real.
Okay. The other thing is the way you got into MMA is very interesting because you've competed in Muay Thai tournaments, you've competed in kickboxing tournaments. So can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to make this transition to mixed martial arts?
Well, initially I had always wanted to do MMA when I first started training, but my coach, he wanted me to ease into everything. We started with boxing and trying to get a taste of what it was like to fight in front of a crowd, and then we slowly, ventured into Muay Thai, kickboxing, training a lot of jiu-jitsu and MMA. And once I became, well-rounded and had as many fights as I had as an amateur, that was when I felt comfortable to turn pro in MMA.
Okay, and afterwards, when you started competing in mixed martial arts, you also took part in a lot of grappling tournaments. So how was this transition different for you?
It wasn't that different, really. I know how to separate the disciplines, so it doesn't complicate anything for me. I can understand how it could for some people, but for me, it was easy for me to transition from one style to the other.
Okay, and there's this story about the Russian team approaching you during one Muay Thai World Championships after seeing KGB on your trunks. So can you elaborate on what happened there?
Well, I was wearing my KGB trunks, and the Moscow coach from one of the teams came over to me and asked why my nickname was KGB, and he asked was I KGB or not, or not if I was KGB, but if I was Russian. And Donnie is like, no, but she looks Russian, and so he kind of looked me up and down, and then slowly said, she does, and then turned and walked away. But it was just funny because he came over, and he's all serious. And from what I understand and what I've heard, Russians are very serious people. They walk around, they have very serious expressions and stuff on their face all the time. And he came over there, and he looked like he meant some business. But then he came back later, and we all got pictures, and he was very cool. He was, him and his team, they were really nice people.
Okay, and your MMA career really took off in the very beginning itself. You fought some of the bigger names in the flyweight division when you made your Invicta debut, Invicta FC debut. So, what went through your mind when you got the call from Invicta so early in your career?
Well, I was very excited about it, and we had been reaching out to Invicta, and we sent them our resume, and they told us, we just needed to get a fight in under our, at least one fight in as a professional, and they were going to bring me over to Invicta. So that's what we did. We got my first fight in, and that fight lasted all of like 10 seconds, and then the next fight I was fighting Can in Invicta, and I, it was one of my favorite fights. It was very exciting, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and a similar story with the UFC happened as well. The last year you won the LFA women's flyweight title, and you immediately got a call from the UFC as well. Did you expect to get a call from the organization so soon when you won the title?
Not that soon. I wasn't expecting it to come immediately after my fight, like just a few hours after my fight. But I had expected maybe the end of the year or sometime at the beginning of January that I would probably get the call. So I knew it was coming. I just didn't know.
Okay, and you make it a point to stay active. You fight thrice or 4 times even a year. In the UFC, that kind of is difficult to maintain. Keeping that amount of fights per year ratio. Do you expect to fight those many times in the UFC, or are you just gonna take each fight as it comes?
Well, I know it's not going to be as easy to get opponents and get a fight, in the UFC. So I know that if I'm lucky, I'll get at least 3 fights a year. So of course, I would like to get more, but I guess that depends on if I'm able to take short notice fights, which that happens a lot. They call you up for short notice fights all the time, and as long as I stay prepared and stay ready, I'll be able to do that. And we're looking forward to that happening, but we just don't know when. So we're going to stay ready because I do want to stay active.
Okay, so talking about you being ready and staying active, you train with Andy, who is a good friend of yours. So how important is it in this sport to have that camaraderie and knowing that you can, depend or trust on someone that close?
It's very important. Andy was my first female training partner. Whenever that I ever got, to come and train with me at my gym and stay consistent the way that she has. And I was used to training with guys, and then she came to the picture, and it just felt completely different, having that female companion to train with, because it is different, females, and it's not the same. You got to get a different look. You get a different look with women as you do with men, and training with her, it's the look that you get with other opponents that I'm fighting and competing against. So it really is very important to have that, in your life and your family.
Right, absolutely. Now talking about the flyweight division in the UFC itself, we had the strawweight division and the bantamweight division for so long before flyweight division was integrated. So how important do you think it is for the women, especially because we have seen people like, women either cutting down to 115 or going up to 135. So how important is the flyweight division for the women in the UFC?
I think it's very important because I think most of the women are probably true flyweights.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of women that, like you said, that were going up to 35 or going down to 15, and you got a lot of small 135ers, and then you got a lot of women that are struggling to make it to 115 because they're true 125ers. So I think that it's going to be a stacked division, and there's going to be a lot of 125ers, coming for that title.
Right, and they say that anticipation before an event is actually more taxing, is actually, takes a lot more toll on the mind than actually, going into the fight. So you were supposed to make your debut in the UFC last year, but knowing that you had to wait for 6 more months, how long was this anticipation for you?
It felt like it took forever. The anticipation does suck, but it gave me more time to train and prepare. Even though that last fight, I was coming off a win and I had already been in a training camp, so I was ready. But it did give me more time to prepare myself, and so I don't know. It is easier, trying to take a fight on short notice because you don't have to wait it out. You don't have time to think about it and get yourself psyched out. So You know, it's a win-win either way. You know, some you get time to prepare for your fight, or you know, you take a short notice fight and you don't have to think about it as much. You know, it's just like bam, you're there. You
Right.
know, and time to go.
Right. So, talking about your UFC debut, can you compare the nerves, going into your UFC debut to what you've experienced during the World Championships in Muay Thai, during different competitions? Can you draw parallels to that?
Honestly, I think I've been more nervous in my Muay Thai tournaments than I was making my UFC debut. It's weird, but I guess it's just because I've had enough experience now that it doesn't mess with me. It doesn't mess with my head anymore. You know, I made sure to have as much experience as I could before, you know, making it to the UFC. And I had like 45 or 50 fights as an amateur, you know,
Right.
all combined, MMA, boxing, kickboxing, and boxing, um, and Muay Thai. But I mean, and that really helped out a lot, you know. So, and then just being able to fight for Invicta and for Legacy LFA, you know, and being in front of the cameras and fighting on TV and stuff, that helped prepare me, I think. So it really wasn't as nerve wracking as, you know, a lot of the fights I've had in the past.
Right. And after the Macedo fight, you took to Twitter. You said, you expected a better performance. What do you think happened during the fight itself for you?
Well, I had initially wanted to, you know, stand up and throw more strikes with her. You know, I wanted to display everything, and it's, at first I was in the first round, but
Right.
then once I got my hands on her and I felt how much stronger I was in the clinch, it was like everything else just, you know, went out the window, and it was like it clicked in my head. I'm like, this is how I'm going to win, you know, and I want to beat her up in the clinch. So that's what I ended up just continue going for. You know, I felt so much stronger than her in the clinch and on the cage and on the ground. So it was just like, why stand and bang with her? She's also a very talented striker. She's a world champion, multi-world champion taekwondo.
Yeah.
Whatever, I totally messed that up. But but I'm just saying, she's a good striker, and
Yeah.
why risk standing with her and taking the chance of getting knocked out, you know, when I could just beat her up in the clinch and make her fight my fight.
Right, absolutely. And how important is it for a fighter to make those adjustments? Because you can have your game plan going into the cage, but making those tweaks during the fight itself, how important is it for a fighter to be adaptable to those changes?
It's very important. I think that's what makes a very good, well-rounded fighter, and it makes an intelligent fighter. You know, if you can adapt and adjust and do those things on the spot. You know, so for me, it ended up winning me the fight. So I think it's very important.
Okay, and after the fight, I mean, is it better for you to just sit back?
Ain't losing connection.
Yeah, no problem. So, how important is it for you, after the win, to just sit back, to take it all in, to kind of enjoy the moment before you go into the training camp again? How important is that for a fighter?
I think it's very important, you know, to take some time to yourself and just, you know, relax, because a training camp, you know, could be 6 to 8 weeks, I guess, depending on when you decide to start. Normally we start about 8 weeks out. And, you know, it takes so much time away from your family. So after a fight, I like to try to relax and catch up and spend as much time as I can with my family. And, you know, we've got a vacation coming up. So I'm very, very excited and very much looking forward towards that, because I'm taking my daughter to Disney, and, you know, she's going to enjoy it.
Okay, so I think it's safe to assume that, since you're talking about a vacation, you haven't touched base with the UFC matchmakers, or they did not approach you with another fight immediately or anything of that sort?
Not immediately, no, sir. Maybe towards, I guess, maybe during fall season, you know, probably end up getting another match, unless, of course, something happens and they need like a short notice opponent and they happen to call me.
Okay.
But other than that, you know, probably around September, you know, we're talking August, September. So we'll see. We haven't been approached yet, so, you know, we're not 100%.
Okay, and since the flyweight division is relatively new, is very young, are you targeting any names? Are you, because you're so close to get in the top 10, are you looking at someone right now in the flyweight division?
Well, I got my eyes on everybody. Just whoever they decide to, match me up against, I'll accept and be eager to prepare for and get ready for that.
All right, and since you talked about the title, fighting for the title soon, many fans are intrigued by the matchup, the stylistic matchup between yourself and Valentina Shevchenko. Is that a fight that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, eventually, yes, that it is a fight that I'm looking forward to. But like, I would prefer to have more fights in the UFC before getting matched up with Valentina, because she is a very, very talented striker. She's well rounded, and I want to be prepared for her, and I need to get more experience inside the UFC cage, the octagon, before taking that fight.
Okay, and again, going back to the fight week and probably the biggest takeaways that you can take into your next fight, are there anything that kind of surprised you, that might have prepared you for what to expect the next time around in the UFC?
You mean in the fight, or just
the fight week? The entire package itself.
General experience.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think we got a lot of stuff out of the way that I probably won't have to do the next time that I fight. Like certain videos, shoots, or pictures. So I think that's gonna probably make it a lot easier. I won't be as stressed out. But oh yeah, and then of course getting the nerves out of the way. With the whole sitting down and having all of the interviewers, the media, the paparazzi come up and interview you and ask you questions and stuff like that. I mean, that was new to me, being in that room and sitting, because I was on the main card, so I got to experience all that, and that was really cool. And then of course the weigh-ins, but we had like 3 or 4 face-offs in Chile, which doesn't normally happen. I think normally it's like 2 face-offs, but there it's like we had to have face-offs for everybody in Chile, and for their media and their news outlets there. So, but yeah, I think I'm well prepared now. I know it takes, but
right. And I also wanted to ask you this: how was your experience in Chile? It just keeping the fight aside, how was the experience for you?
It was incredible. Like, I'm really looking forward to hopefully going back and just getting to explore more. We didn't get to explore as much as we wanted to. We met up. We got an Airbnb there, and it was strange because at first, we thought that we were like in a rundown area because everything was spray painted or whatever. But that's just their thing. They love artwork, so that's their art. And it was crazy because everything looked like it looked like we weren't around anything at all. But then in the daylight, and when everything's open, between hours of work, like it's hidden, like hidden areas, hidden restaurants and hidden bars and hidden, like everything was hidden where we were at. It was just crazy looking, but it was a lot of fun. And we ended up having a coach that lived there who was coaching and cornering at the UFC. He ended up helping us out and being kind of our tour guide, and we made friends with him. So we plan on going back and Airbnb there where we were at last time. So I don't know, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun in it. All the people were very nice and very respectful, and I just enjoyed meeting everyone.
Right, and how frustrating is it for a fighter to go to a place like Chile during the fight week, knowing that you're in a place that people would love to explore, but you cannot because you have to focus on your fight and cutting weight? How frustrating is that for you?
It is frustrating because as a female, I like to shop and I wanted to go and get some souvenirs and stuff, but that's why we ended up staying a few extra days. We had planned for that, and that's probably what we'll do in most situations. We'll just plan to stay a few extra days and then explore after the fight. And it really is difficult too when you don't have somebody, like, because I can't speak Spanish, and and Chilean is it's a little bit different than Spanish,
Right.
So it was very nice to be able to meet up with some people that could speak, because Andy, she ended up losing her passport on one of the Uber driver's vehicles, and
wow.
luckily the guy that we had just met up with, he could speak Spanish, and he was able to translate and help find her passport and get that back for her, because She was literally leaving like in an hour, and she couldn't find her passport. It was crazy.
That must have been quite an experience because, again, putting myself in her shoes, I would have freaked out.
Oh yeah, she was very freaked out. I mean, and she knew she lost it because it was not in her bag, and she called the Uber driver, and he was like, no, it wasn't there. But then he finally called back and he told her that she had found it, or that they had found it. Of course, some money was missing, but she got her passport back, so she wasn't worried about that.
All right, Andrea, one final question for you. What can the fans, MMA and UFC fans, expect from Andrea KGB Lee in 2018?
I mean, every time that I step in the cage, just expect an exciting fight. I'm not gonna bore you, and I plan on putting on an incredible performance with every opponent that I ever fight and face, and just expect a fun show.
Outstanding. Again, thank you so much, Andrea, for taking the time for us. We really appreciate it. Look forward to speaking to you again soon, and we'll wait for your next fight announcement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. Have a good day.
You too. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.